Okay, so this is your chapter of direct and inverse proportion. Okay, so the first portion we'll talk about direct proportion. Okay, if I say something is directly proportional, so if y is directly proportional to x, how do I put it in terms of an equation form is y equals to kx. Okay, where k is a constant. Okay, so k is just a numerical value and it cannot equals to 0. Okay, so if you all recall what we did in your linear graphs, that means straight line graphs, okay, the same rule applies, right? Okay, where k is a constant, it will not affect the shape of the graph, only the gradient. Why? Because if you recall, okay, your equation of a line is y equals to mx plus c. Okay, so in this case, I'm just looking at the mx portion where my c is 0. Okay, so the m is representative of the gradient, right? Which in this form is your k. Okay, so when I'm talking about directly proportional, if something increases or if one of the variable increases, the other will increase as well. Okay, this is what I mean by directly proportional. Okay, so same thing as your straight line graph. Okay, for the bottom two portions, there's a bit of a error in the diagrams, so just cancel it out for me. Okay, can? So how do we apply direct proportion into the question? Okay, I know there are steps that are written for in the notes here, okay, but if I were to just go through the steps with you all without the example, it will be lost. Okay, so let's take a look at the examples together with the steps. Okay, so this is a very standard question that you get for proportion. Okay, they will tell you that y is proportionate to x. Okay, where y equals to 5 when x equals to 10. Find y when x equals to 24. Okay, so these are all the standard information that they'll give you when you're doing proportion questions. So step 1 is always form the proportion equation using k. So since they just say proportional, they never say direct. Okay, so when they just say proportional, it means it's directly proportional. Okay, so form the proportion equation y equals to kx. Okay, that's the first step. Step 2, you always need to find out what's this value of the constant based on the two values given to you. Okay, so I throw in the equation, or not say equation, the values given, when x equals to 10 and y equals to 5. Okay, solve for k equals to half. After I solve for this value of k, I will put it back into the original equation here where now k is a known value. So now this is the equation that you are working with. So now that I have this equation, find y when x equals to 24. Okay, very simple. Okay, just sub in the value of x equals to 24 into the equation that I worked out earlier. Okay, you'll solve for y, that's it. Okay, so this is a very standard type of proportion question. Proportion type of questions are very standard and similar throughout. Okay, it is always following these few steps here. Form your proportion equation. Okay, so one thing I want you to add in the notes they didn't. Okay, right, have a habit where k is a constant here. So y equals to kx where k is a constant. Okay, because many times or very often, sometimes when students don't write this statement, they forget that k is just a constant. They think or they use it as a variable. Okay, so please always write this statement when you're forming the equation. The next portion is when I have a square or cube root in the equation. So always read the question carefully. When they say, for example, y varies directly with the square of x. So that means y is directly proportional to x squared because the square of x. That's why I have x squared. Okay, proportionate to cube root of x. So I have y equals to k cube root of x. Okay, so always read the question carefully. Okay, it's not always y equals to kx. Or sometimes they can use other variables to represent y and k. Or y and x, sorry. Okay, so not all the times you have y and x. Okay, so when you all try the tutorial, you'll understand what I mean. So this question here, it is given that y is directly proportionate. Okay, so that's the first information to the square root of x. Then same thing, they'll always give you one value of y and one value of x to find the constant k. Then they ask you to find the value of y when x equals to 100. Okay, so same thing, the steps are the same. Just that now, because you are working with square root of x, when I form my equation is y equals to k square root x, comma, same thing where k is a constant. Okay, then the steps below are exactly the same. After I form my equation, I need to sub in values to find k, right? With the given values. So when x equals to 4, y equals to 3. Okay, so please write these statements. All of these steps here have marks awarded for meta marks. Okay, so 3 equals to k square root 4. Okay, solve. Okay, you get 2k equals to 3. K equals to 3 over 2. Okay, so in this case, because this intermediate working, okay, there is no need for you to express this in the simplest form. But if you want, you can as well. Nothing wrong. Okay, but this intermediate working, which is why in the notes they don't put it in the simplest form. So after I've solved for this value of k, I will throw it back into the original equation. So now I have y equals to 3 over 2 square root x. And then the last part is where you give the values given to find the other unknown. So when x equals to 100, sub when x equals to 100, okay, into the equation, you will get y equals to 15. That's it. Okay? So you realize proportion questions are very standard throughout. Okay, the steps that you follow are always the same. What might differ is, okay, the variables that you're working with. Could be y equals to kx squared, y equals to kx cubed, for example. So always read the question carefully. Okay, this is for the portion of direct proportion.